What an impressive session. The UI project provides broad opportunities for students at different levels, including graduate and undergraduate, to participate in aeronautics research in support of NASA's strategic plans. UI also promotes greater diversity in aeronautics through increased participation of minority-serving institutions and underrepresented university faculties. You can learn more by scanning the QR code. We'll also post the link in the YouTube chat and on the imaginAviation website. Also available on the imaginAviation website will be a post-event survey. imaginAviation officials read every comment and take feedback seriously to deliver you the most compelling and relevant content. Up next, our newest thought leaders will share their early career perspectives. Let's tune in.
Hey, thanks, Steve, and welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are in the world watching today. I'm really excited. I'll be your moderator for this next session. My name is Kelsey Skaggs, and I would like to be a little biased for a second and say we've saved the best for last today. Please join me in welcoming our final panel for the afternoon. Here to discuss their early career perspectives from millennial to Gen Z. We've been told we do things a little different than most, but that uniqueness is something really incredible that we bring to the table, and I look forward to discussing it today with my group of friends that I've gotten to know over the last few days, and I hope you will too in these next few minutes. So let's look for them. Awesome. All right, we're all dialed in. I would love to start with, let's kind of paint the picture before we dive in of the things we've gone through at our age. I was looking it up this morning, and it was really humbling and also made me feel really old. But to kind of get a background of what we've all experienced and why we bring things to the table that are a little different than those before us, here's the things that we have lived through as millennials and Gen Zers. The introduction of the internet, the World Wide Web at home computers, which we all know had dial-up connection, cell phones that were as big as a brick that are now able to fit in your pocket, iPods, I don't even know how many iterations of iPods we've seen, iPhones, iPads, instant messaging, email, text messaging, and then major events we've lived through in our time on Earth. 9/11 was a big one for us. Economic recession. Our age group entered the workforce during an economic recession, and a lot of the benchmarks that earlier folks have had are not the same for us. We're marrying and getting houses and starting families later on in life due to that. And then on top of it, just overall, we were the generation that really brought in diverse cultures and backgrounds. We were the first to see a Black president in office. So much to offer from our generation, such a big melting pot, and I'm really excited. So let's get started with introductions. Kyle, I would love for you to start us.
Sure. Kyle Ellis. I am currently the project manager for NASA's system-wide safety project supporting the Aeronautics Research Mission Directorate under the Aviation Operations and Safety Program. My background is primarily in human factors, so I do a lot of advanced technology integration, looking at how people work with advanced technology, looking at new systems on board flight decks, for example, and a little bit more on the systems integration side. So I kind of look at myself as a systems engineer. So in terms of raw research, that's been a lot of my background. I did a lot of that in graduate research studies at the University of Iowa, where I went to school, and was really fortunate to be a pipeline student, really coming in through the NASA internship program, turned that into a graduate fellowship, and then ultimately led me to a career here within NASA, and been loving it ever since. So it's just a little bit of background on me.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Sierra, let's go to you.
All right. Well, Kyle really set the stage here, so I'm going to try to get my bar just as high. But thank you, Kelsey, and thank you, NASA, for hosting this event. I'm honored to be a part of it. As you all will see, I am the only non-NASA person on here, so that's really, really an honor. My name is Sierra Grimes, and I am on the government affairs team at Southwest Airlines. I am from a small little town in Southern Virginia, came up to big city, Washington, D.C., with my eyes big and ready to conquer D.C. as a young girl that was just enamored with government and thought I wanted to be a Supreme Court justice, but fell into an amazing career in aviation. I attended Howard University here in Washington, D.C. and studied political science, and landed an amazing job with a trade association out here called the National Business Aviation Association, where I started off doing their professional development and created a program, what was known as MBA YoPro. So it was a program on the development for young professionals within the business aviation industry. And most recently, we'll talk about a little later with Kelsey, I have transferred over and now do the government. I'm the director of government affairs here at Southwest Airlines. So I'm able to still mix that passion for aviation that I love and fell into this amazing career with also the young girl that loved DC and politics and the study of government. And so my role here is to advocate on behalf of the aviation industry with members of Capitol Hill on both the House of Representatives and the Senate side. So very, very interesting and excited to be here today.
Yeah, thank you, Sierra. We're very excited to have you. And you might not be a NASA person, but you are one of the family today, and we're really excited to have you. So, Holly, kick us off next.
Hi, everybody. It's really hard to follow that. Let's see. I am the aeronautics STEM support specialist. So I help with conferences and putting on presentations, and I get to do events, meeting, and doing STEM with kids and adults. My background is, let's see, I first started in radio marketing and promotions. And then I started my family. I had my kids, and then I basically followed them to school, did early childhood, went to elementary school with them, became a teacher. I taught for 10 years. And then a pandemic kind of changed things for me. I left the school system and I went back to school myself, got my master's, and then I kind of fell into an internship here at NASA. And this is not a place I ever expected to be. Didn't think NASA even needed teachers. I was like, what do they have for, what need do they have for teachers? Shows what I know. So I applied for an internship, and I didn't get any of the internships I applied for, actually. I reached out to the person that hosted the webinar, and she gave my name to Dave Berger, and he brought me on as an intern, and then it kind of just rolled from there. And then my internship turned into a full-time position. And I started off with an associate's degree in radio, television, and film from Austin Community College. And then I got my bachelor's in education from Houston Tillotson here in Austin. And then I went on to get my master's from Southeastern Oklahoma State University. And here I am. That's me, y'all.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you so much, Holly. Cardi, let's go over to you.
I am an intern at NASA. I'm working with CAT on the CAS projects. My background was originally in sociology. I did my undergraduate at CU Boulder, born and raised in Colorado, and I'm doing my graduate degree at Boulder. I was originally planning on going to medical school, so I got my degree in sociology, did my pre-med prereqs, and took my MCAT and was applying for medical schools. And I thought, instead of taking 2 gap years, let me apply for the master's program in biomedical engineering. So kind of not in the sociology path at all. And I was applying for internships on the engineering side, and many people just kind of were like, I didn't get many internships because they saw I didn't have a strong engineering background. And then I saw this NASA internship, and they were looking for people with a lot of different backgrounds to bring a lot of different perspectives to the table. And I applied, and I talked to Eric, and he was like, I love that you have such a diverse thought process and so many different backgrounds to bring to the table. We need diverse perspectives here at NASA, and I never thought I would end up at NASA either. So I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm excited to work with such great people. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think it really is a testament to today. A lot of folks that spoke earlier talked about how they never imagined their life leading to where it currently is. And I think we're in some good company because we're all there right now. And this age group has been known to be adaptable and agile. And I don't think any of us ever expected to be where we're at right now, but we're loving every minute of it and the opportunities we get. And so going into the early career perspectives and diving into that, Kyle, I want to hit on what you talked about. You're a program manager at a really young age compared to your peers. What has that journey been like for you? And what are you bringing to the table that maybe you haven't seen before?
Oh, wow, that's a big one. Well,
Welcome.
yeah, no, it's great. It's really interesting. The journey is interesting, right? So for me, it seemed like I went to school for a really long time to work on a really specific technical field, and I did, right? So I really loved doing it. Part of that journey was really always focused on what do I really love to do? Like, what are my gifts as a person? Which, like you said, is shaped really by, kind of the upbringing that you've had, right? So I was really fortunate to have some great supportive parents leading into that really helped me establish a foundation to figure out what could I do next, right? How do I apply myself in new ways based off whatever opportunities present themselves? And so, similar to everybody else, I didn't really see myself at NASA growing up in Iowa. I didn't really think that was going to be a thing. I thought it was really just, Houston, we have a problem, and then realized there's a whole aeronautics side to that. So as a young kid, I always loved aviation. Right? The passion really lit early for me. And even more specifically, funny as my background being human factors, I loved everything with buttons and lights, right? And what has more buttons and lights than an airplane? So really from a young age, looking at that and then flying from 12 years old in ultralights with my uncle who used to build and fly them, it really got me into it. And so my career path has always just followed my own passions for what I'm really into at the moment. I think that's been really key for me, and just thinking that what do I really love to do, to where I don't tell my managers this, right? But I do it for free because I love doing it so much, right? I've always enjoyed a career path to where I've always had the opportunity to do that. And NASA's been fantastic for that because it has such a breadth of focus areas to really apply yourself. And so I went to school to open up as many opportunities as I could, right? To present to, various career paths that I could have. And then landed at NASA, did the human factors work, doing the flight deck integration things and actually getting involved in that. And then realizing that I really had a heart for working with people. And it's kind of a unique thing coming from an engineer, and depending on what communities you work with. But everything we did was working with folks, and having kind of that interpersonal skill set was something that started to catch people's attention with things. And I was just given more and more opportunities to really take my skill set and then apply it in broader sets of responsibility. And so I just kept following that. And I always wanted to know how people communicated the work that we were doing. And that led me to a path of working with some of the project management that we had, and kind of really working with larger and larger teams. So it led me to this point where I was thinking, how do I actually make the decision to move from doing the hands-on work to actually managing the hands-on work? And it really led to this desire that I had to learn from really, really great mentors, right? And experience how they did what they do. And then actually take some of the gifts that I had and turn those into opportunities. And if I didn't have those conversations with my mentors to really be on the lookout for me, I don't think I'd be sitting where I am today, right? And it's really just people taking the chance and the time to invest in me, right? To be able to go in and apply myself in new ways, right? And so, like I said, it was a big decision for me to move over to the management side, but I haven't looked back. I've really enjoyed doing that, because I've liked being, to quote Hamilton, in the room where it happens when you're working on a particular thing. And it's been a really rewarding career path. I think a unique thing from our generational perspective is we're used to, like you said, we came, with the advent of the internet, right? Computer systems have been here, so we've been really quick to pick up and leveraging those means of quick communication and working together, right? And even the pandemic, I'll point in on that, is we were quick and early adopters, really across the agency, across the nation, across the world, on connecting in new ways, right? And really being forced to, especially when we were physically separated through things, and really taking that as an opportunity to improve the way in which we do business. And so I think our generation in particular is well equipped to deal with that. And we've really used it as a platform to really improve whoever we're working with, whether that's Southwest, whether that's NASA. We've been able to bring that to the table and bring it to bear for everybody to take advantage of. And it's been a practice we continue to enjoy today. And I'd also add one more last piece, is really the interpersonal part of it, right? We are connected in new ways than we haven't been before. And we're used to working long distances and even chatting. I remember working with AOL Instant Messenger, right? And new communities that way. So it's been really helpful in the way in which we do business today. And I think bringing that to the management perspective has been really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's so important to hit on, as a leader nowadays, it's not only important to have that technical expertise, but that emotional intelligence that goes along with it. And understanding that the person on the other side of that screen is indeed a person with thoughts and feelings and everything else, and taking that into account. And it's really exciting to hear how you're integrating that into leadership now. And with that, I mean, you have such a high rank and you've done so much at a young age, but I can't pass over Sierra. She just recently moved into a position as Director of Government Affairs for Southwest Airlines. What a huge accomplishment. And congratulations. What has that journey been like for you, and what led to you making that kind of shift in your career?
Well, thank you so much, Kelsey. Before I answer that question, because I made a mistake when I did my introduction, not only am I the Director of Government Affairs at Southwest Airlines, but I am a mom to an amazing 12-year-old young lady who is currently watching this live stream with her 7th grade science class at St. Anthony's Catholic School in Washington, D.C. So hello, St. Anthony's and Giant. Thank you for tuning in today. But I was nodding the whole time that Kyle was talking because he was spot on. I went from getting a job where I was doing professional development because while in school, I was working at the Capitol Hilton and I learned about the event side of the industry. Like I said, studied political science, so had aspirations to, do something related to government. Didn't really want to go on Capitol Hill, to be honest. Don't tell anyone that if you want to do a Capitol Hill internship or career, it's a great career. But, it's like Kyle said, you just had to find what was passionate for you and what worked for you and leverage your skills and abilities with that. So I landed at my previous employer, MBAA, was with them for over a decade, where that goes to show no one can put us in a box as millennials, because they always say young people won't stay, we just career hop, and that is not true. Everyone here has talked about how we got to where we are in our careers, but we've been there for a while and we've grown within. So just to refute that, what they say about the younger generation. But I was there, got into the government affairs side of things, and like Kyle said, the pandemic was really an awakening for, businesses and for us as a people. And I found myself in a position where I was like, this trajectory that I have for my career is great, and I can still grow to be an executive at this company. But is this really what I'm passionate about any longer? Like the professional development for the young professionals program was great, but I mean, I wasn't going to always be young forever, and then when it came to the events and the traveling, my daughter was getting older. And so it was just taking with what my life was like in that moment, and had a conversation with one of the executives at the company who happened to be an informal mentor to me, and just bouncing off some ideas with her. And then lo and behold, she came back to me after having a conversation with my CEO and was like, we can't afford to lose you. So we're going to create a position for you in the government affairs team, and you'll be able to grow up the ranks here. I was able to learn from both her and our CEO, who had an amazing background when it came to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And that same opportunity, she left from MBAA and went over to run the government affairs team at Southwest Airlines here in DC. And years later, she's like, there's an opportunity open up. Do you want to answer this one? And I'm like, it's time to take that leap and jump on to the next thing. And so now I'm here at as the Director of Government Affairs here with this team, ready to go and grow from here.
Awesome. That's so awesome. And it's so important to recognize that mentor mentee program, right? That's a two-way street. It gets us so much. We gain so much from it, but we can also give so much, being the generation that's grown up with so much change. And I think one of the big things I failed to mention that is a huge part of all of our lives now that we've lived through is post-COVID, how we handle life and how we do a lot of our work. And with that being said, a lot of it has switched over to online work and not being limited to geographical area for talent, right? And so that also includes internships. And so, Curdy, I want to talk to you a little bit about the internship experience and what that's been like for you, and how is it balancing internship and going to school? And I know in our talking to one another, you have a lot of other things you have going on. That's really awesome. What has that been like?
It's been busy, but it's been wonderful to be able to do so many different have so many different opportunities and be able to do all of them. because this internship is completely remote, but then to also have the opportunity to work with such a wonderful team that they all come from so many different places and so many different backgrounds. But I still remember the first time we all flew to Virginia and met with each other, and we just got along so well. And I'm still grateful that I'm here and able to work with such a great team, but then also being able to go to school, do my classes, do my internship, and I am also TAing for a class. So, but being able to have that virtual platform to grade my students' exams and then come on here and work with my intern team and work with my CAS team, and also be able to go to class and have the option to do online classes, to have more time available for the other things that I'm doing. And I think it's really nice. I mean, obviously, COVID was not something that was nice, but the post-COVID opportunities that gave people a lot more, options to do more things, I think is wonderful. And the internship experience has been great. And I am grateful for the people that I've met, because it also opens a lot more, I think it opens a lot more opportunities for people to meet each other virtually and in person. So.
Yeah, spectacular. So true. And, hitting on that a little bit too, to become an intern or even to think about that, you kind of have to have that spark at a really young age, right? And in our generation, we're seeing, like I said, we're more culturally diverse in a lot of our areas. So we're seeing more women and people of color become engaged in STEM and learning. And that's a really exciting thing. And Holly, I know you talked about you get to work with kids in STEM, which is not something I even had in school. So I think it's really cool that it's here now. What are you seeing with kids that are wanting to get engaged in this at such a young age? What is kind of that spark behind that?
Oh, that's a loaded question. It sounds simple, but it's loaded. I mean, when I'm out there doing STEM with these kids, already in the classroom, I love seeing their faces light up when they learn something new or when they accomplish something that they couldn't accomplish. But when I get to do outreach with NASA and get to engage with kids and adults, it's even more awesome to see the adults' faces light up for them learning things that they didn't know. And it's kind of nice because out there in outreach, they kind of feel more comfortable asking those questions that they may not feel comfortable asking like another adult, But when we're out there and we're talking to the kids, I'll hear the adults pipe up and ask questions. And then that's kind of awesome because they're with their children, and then that entices their kids to ask more questions. So I do love that. I see their lights light up a little bit more, if that makes sense. So it makes me light up. And I remember having a meeting with one of my teams, and they were talking about their jobs and things like that. And they were saying, "Oh, I hope I love my job the way Holly does." And it's really, I do love my job. But I love interacting with the people and how they react to the things we're teaching them. And the stuff that NASA puts out there for STEM is something that's accessible for everybody. It's not just for the kids in the traditional classroom. It's for the kids that are homeschooled, or the kids that are learning in museums, or kids that are learning in summer camps and things like that. So I love that they're stepping up more. And actually, these kids inspire me. When I was young, I didn't have a lot of inspiration and to do great things. It was all about graduate high school and then get a job, was really how it goes in my family. I'm the first one to have a college degree, so I didn't have that support to push me to do anything. I was just that person that pushed myself. And so to see these kids have those kind of, aspirations as little kids. I mean, even my own kids, I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, and my 12-year-old wants to, do coding, and he wants to create video games and work on computers. And that's amazing. When I was little, I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I was like, I just want to be little, And then I have a 9-year-old who dreams of being a veterinarian. And so, I mean, these kids, they inspire me. So I go out there and I try to inspire them and teach them STEM, but really it's honestly the other way around. They inspire me to be better at what I do and go out there and make sure I offer them the best resources, the best lessons, just the knowledge that I can pass on to them is really what I go out there and do.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because we came of age in a generation where technology was new and we were kind of figuring it out. And then this next generation has it from the beginning. They have it from jump. So they already have a leg up on us, right? My 7-year-old, I'm a mom too. He knows how to work an iPad better than I do most days. And so it's interesting to see that they are already starting with a leg up, and to just think about where they'll be in the next 10 to 20 years is truly fascinating. And with that being said, I think one of the big things that is specific more to our generation is the use of social media and engagement. It wasn't a thing before, right? Like now we have everything at our fingertips and we can use social media as a tool for good, a tool for change. But Sierra, let's start with you. And this is really open to everybody if you have an opinion. But Sierra, what do you see about social media that's impacting the way we do work now and how we engage with people?
Sure. And I just want to double back on what both you and Holly said as well. I think the amazing thing about this next generation is that they're such big dreamers, you know, and because they grew up in a world where technology and everything was accessible to them at all times, their imagination is so much bigger. You know, to them, the opportunities are so much bigger. And so to the students and people that are watching and listening to our panel today, I just want to encourage them that as you continue to grow and you make your plans for your careers, continue to bring that big, bold, you know, imagination and energy to your career and to your studies, because it is that boldness and that inspiration that we all get from listening and watching you all, and that encouragement and that like big opportunity that is actually going to carry you through your career as you have to be agile and as you have to navigate going against what you originally planned to being adaptable, like Kyle said in the beginning, to what is offered to you at that time. So I say that to tie in that social media is just like the way of the world now. You know, like you said, Kelsey, when we were growing up, I mean, we all had MySpace, and little did we know we were like little mini coders, and we didn't even know at that moment when we were making our top 8 or 10 or whatever our friends were. And this generation has no idea what MySpace is. They're like, what is that? We have Instagram, we have Snapchat, we have all of the Facebooks and everything of that sort. And not only is that what we use in our personal life, like you outlined, but companies, you know, like Southwest Airlines, one of the biggest parts of our business is our social media. You know, like that is an opportunity where customers are able to interact with brands and companies on a day-to-day basis in an instant. You know, like we literally are tracking what our customers are saying. When I worked for a trade association, we were engaging with our members on LinkedIn, on social media, so that we would know their opinions. What did they want? What could we do to serve them better? I deal with members of Congress in Capitol Hill. They use that and they engage on social media on a daily basis. So I think that social media has given us an opportunity to consistently stay connected and to be able to also just have another platform personally when it comes to our professions to just highlight ourselves. You know, like now you have a platform like LinkedIn where you can have it basically an online resume. From the moment that you open your page as a student, you can put up all of the clubs and the organizations that you're a part of, you know, any of your writings, if you get published in your school or news websites or whatever that is, you can house all of that there. And as you grow within your career, you can consistently put that stuff on there. And so now an employer is able to look for you and to see and speak to you and see who you are as an employee before they even have a chance to interact with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. I think, you know, we came of an age, like you said, where there's MySpace and we just put anything up there. And then now we're on the flip side of that pendulum where it's like, okay, hold on. Now we need to curate a little bit more carefully because workplaces can see what we're putting out there, right? And it's so interesting to see this tool being used to pull younger generations in, right? The most engagement that we see nowadays is from companies utilizing social media in a fun and kind of joking way to draw people in that wasn't really used before. You know, it's just been really interesting to see. And so with that being said, this has all been around technology, and I see we have some great questions coming into IO, and one really stood out to me that I wanted to hit on was technology is at our fingertips every day, 24/7, and we work from a computer. Some of us work from home, but we're usually online for work at least 8 hours a day, if not more. And then we turn around and hop into Instagram or, you know, whatever, Snapchat, whatever we might have on our phones, right, to utilize that tool to communicate with friends. It can be hard to unplug sometimes or to step away from work. Like we used to have that hard separation of driving into the office and then driving home and having those two separate, boxes. Kyle, we've hit on, most of us here have kids. I know you have kids. What has that work-life balance been like for you post-COVID?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and actually probably the most important question, I think, for especially upcoming generations coming into the workforce, because if you don't have it, you're gonna maybe not realize right off the bat, but it's a slow melting away, right? And it is, at least to me, and I experienced this through the pandemic too, because especially as we talk about all of these new tools, I'm going to call these tools and capabilities, right? Social media is a tool and a capability to allow us to connect and share information and awareness about things in new ways, right? And even as we're talking right now, like this is a way in which we're working today, and it makes things instantly accessible in a way that we never really had it before. So when it's that easy, where I can just pull it up on my phone and I can carry it around with me in my pocket, that accessibility needs to come with almost a training kit on boundaries, honestly. Like, as you really think about it, how do you set your own personal boundaries and define what those look like is going to be unique to you, right? So like we said, that's the double-edged sword of passion, right? When you are really passionate about something, you're going to really begin to invest your time. But now, as I realize as a new parent, right, or as a husband or as a significant other, right, and I have all of these big rocks in my life, right? So if I'm going to quote Stephen Covey with that, right, how do you actually look at what are the big important pillars of my life if I'm looking at this, and how do I balance all of those things? Social media can be used in a really great way. There's the way in which we work today with Teams or Office 365, all the tools we have. That intrusiveness, if you allow it to be that way, if you don't have good boundaries, is really tough. And so that really starts, and this is one of the things I've taken on as a leader in our project, right, to establish a culture that allows itself to set boundaries, right? And I think that's a really important thing to set up front. And we set some operating standards and project values up front. And we actually took that and put it on paper to the point where people can feel, if they're starting to feel burned out from something because they're out of whack with their work-life balance, can point to that and say, hey, this is how we said we're going to operate. I feel like I'm violating that for myself and for the project. Let's talk about it, right? So part of that is just establishing a culture within your work and your life and at home on what that looks like for you. And then it starts with just understanding what your work-life balance, what you want it to be, right? And I think that changes depending on your season of life too. I remember when I first came to NASA, it was just me. I moved 1,100 miles away from home, and I could dedicate all my time, 24/7 to work, right? Because I loved it so much. But like I said, as I start to introduce those other cornerstones of my life into this, there's competing things, right? And setting what those boundaries are is going to allow you to really water all those appropriately and help yourself flourish. But it requires that good boundary setting up front.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And I think sometimes as the generation that has been exposed to everything and kind of has learned everything really rapidly, we have a tendency to blur those boundaries a little bit. And it's like, oh yeah, I can do that. It's not hard. But then it cuts into our free time and our work-life balance, which is so critical, especially when you have little ones. Making sure that they know you're there for them and you're also able to achieve a really successful career. I think especially today as we sit here, we have women. And before that wasn't really a thing. I went to school for science and I was the only girl in all of my upper classes. And it was kind of like, wow, this is interesting. But now we're seeing more kids, more girls and ethnicities engage in science, technology, engineering, and math. And it's really exciting to see that we're reaching them in numerous ways, through social media and internships. And Purdy, I kind of wanted to direct back to you. One of the questions we had on the IO tool was, what advice would you give someone who's graduating soon and hasn't had a lot of opportunities or internships come their way?
I would say I felt defeated in my graduate, like my first semester in grad school. I felt defeated because I had applied to so many internships and, level one job opportunities, and I didn't get anything. And I would say don't let it bring you down, because there's going to be at least one person that will believe in you. And it happened to be, I like cold emailed a bunch of labs on my campus, and I was like, I would just like some experience, like help in any way, to be a part of something that like you find interesting and I find interesting. And I had a professor, and he emailed me, and he was like, I've never had someone with a sociology background who was an engineering master's student be interested in something like that. And he was like, I think it would be really valuable to have someone with a sociology undergraduate engineering and then a master's engineering background work in my lab with me. And he was like, it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but I would be grateful to have someone with your drive and ambition come work in my lab with me. And I think just having that one person believe in you will help you believe in yourself and kind of push you to, look in places that you wouldn't have looked before. And so I would just say, don't let it bring you down. And I know that sounds a little bit cheesy and you're allowed to be, sad about it, but I would say, don't let it, like, don't give up. It's like, if you're passionate about it, it's going to work out in the end. And also there's time. Like you have so many things ahead of you. So it's not the end all be all.
Absolutely. Kyle, yeah.
I was just going to add to that. I would be willing to bet almost absolute certainty that every single one of us on here has had a story like that. And I feel, because I had so many times where I was rejected for something or didn't even get a phone call back for anything or an email back. And that's really what builds that, emotional intelligence, that character, that resilience, right? And I think I've probably learned more from the failures in my life, or what I'll call failures or lack of interest, than I did when I actually got something, right? And I think that is a really, really powerful tool. So I'd actually encourage people to flip that around and be like, don't feel defeated about it, but learn from it, right? And I think everybody you're going to read about in a textbook that's done something incredible has that type of story. That's really what makes life really sweet for what it is. And it's going to make your story that much better.
Yeah, I like to say that constructive criticism helps me become better at what I do, because you're like learning from your mistakes, like you said, Kyle, but you're able to like build on that and be better, and also be a better team for the others around you and yourself. So
Absolutely. And I think we are the generation that is not afraid to take risk, which is really exciting. And Kyle, you hit on resiliency. I think that is such a key term for our generation. I remember I didn't even get an internship. I got a call for an entry-level job at NASA. And I remember telling the recruiter, you could have called me and said, hey, you can be a janitor at NASA. And I would have said, great, I'm coming in tomorrow. What do you need done? Because it's a stepping stone, right? Every call, every yes you say provides an opportunity to grow in your career. And maybe it's not the path you choose, but it at least provides you that experience to make you a well-rounded candidate. And so one more question. We have so many questions coming in and they're so great. And we'd really love to continue this discussion later in Gather Town. So we hope you guys join us. But on a closing question that we've had that kind of stood out to me was, what advice, if any, and I'll leave this open to the floor here, would you give to candidates trying to stand out as they enter the workforce and make a difference?
I guess I have a good one on that one.
Okay.
Because I feel like I'm a plain person. I don't stand out. I didn't work for the Capitol. I don't work for, I didn't work for like public people. So I say just be yourself, bring your best self out there. And that's the main thing I've learned here at NASA, is that everybody just wants you to be your authentic self, bring what are your strengths to the table. It might not be the next person's strengths. They might have different strengths, but your strengths also can bring something to your job and to whatever mission you're working on. So just be your best self. And I know everybody says, oh, be yourself. And, they kind of just throw that there. But I really honestly believe if you are your best self and your authentic self, that somebody will see something in you. Like Dave Berger. I didn't think he was going to see anything in me, or NASA would see anything, but something in our conversation sparked something in him, that he saw something in me by me just being myself. So that's my best advice.
Perfect. That is honestly the perfect way to put it, is to be yourself. And I think a key thing that people and young people watching this today should remember is being yourself. If you're in a room where that's not accepted, that's probably not the room you want to be in, but you'll find the room where being yourself is so critical and so important, and they need you. So just keep trying. If you get a no, keep going, keep applying, and just be resilient. And I'm so honored, so thankful to sit with you guys today. And like I said, we're closing out. This was such a great panel. I hate to end it here because there's so many more questions I'd love to ask, but let's keep the conversation going in Gather Town later today after we finish. And thank you guys so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
you.